Welcome to Xybion QMS, introducing a newly released version of the web-based solution that allows you to manage all types of quality records and workflows in a streamlined, compliant, and yet flexible way. With Xybion QMS, it's just part of a larger suite of solutions offered by Xybion that provide end-to-end cloud-based solutions for the pharmaceutical and life science industry with full LIMS, R&D, and lab solutions, and including the QMS suite. With the quality management system, it contains all of the modules that are integrated to have the, again, end-to-end quality management capabilities. And part of that is the master schedule. That sits on a framework that not only allows the integration to each of the modules inside the system, but it also allows the integration framework to connections with other solutions, especially the Xybion solutions. It is purpose-built not only for the end users with an easy-to-use web-based interface, but also for management monitoring and corporate compliance through its robust reporting capability. The good news is that it is both completely out of the box, ready to go with out of the box workflows so you can take it as is, but it is also scalable, which means that as your processes change over time, you will be able to tweak it and make sure operationally it meets all regulatory requirements. As I mentioned, we have an integration framework. One of our other solutions includes the Pristima product. Over time, we have taken different versions of the QMS and the Pristima product solution to effectively integrate those together. For example, some of the integrations we've done include viewing SOPs that are within the QMS document management system inside of measurement. Also looking at the effective material safety data sheets from within the pharmacy substance in Pristima. Also, the certificate of analysis documents, being able to see those that reside in the document management of QMS within pharmacy. The same also applies for the critical integrations that we've done with customers over time. For example, one of the areas would be to do an automatic push of a deviation within the QMS whenever specific parameters are employed in a non-animal measurement. And some other examples, quality management, or in this case specifically study management or master schedule. We have configured a couple different scenarios where we've pushed some of the data coming from the QMS as the starting point over to Pristima and vice versa, depending on where the initial entry point is. And then finally, audit management is a critical piece for quality assurance, and that works in tandem with all of the other modules to produce different reports, and especially those that you might find in a LIMS type audit, such as a QA management report, a QA statement, and an audit report. This marries the best of the preclinical product and solution on the market with QMS for end-to-end processes, documentation, reports, reviews, approvals, and managing lifecycle states over different artifacts. Now, the out-of-the-box module, here's one example where we've taken an audit, and this is a study-based audit. So we are able to integrate that with the master schedule to conduct different types of audits in the study phases. And this one particularly has a planning phase, a documentation phase to research and pull the correct documents prior to the actual audit execution. It also consists of having various audit tasks and writing down those observations or findings where we gather responses, can start study deviations and CAPAs, all those pulling back into those those finding reports that can be issued. So whether you're working with a CRO, you are the CRO, principal investigator, it depends on the type of study, the type of organization you are. this type of audit will cover all those and embed that master schedule or those study specific data into that. And finally, that QA statement through a summarization of the audits and as they're linked to the studies to pull that all together. Now, again, as I mentioned before, we have out of the box workflows, the reports, the capabilities. The good news is what it does is it helps you to achieve rapid implementation and results in your organization. But it is easily configurable because regulations do change, business needs do change over time, and it's important to have a system in place that can scale with you. So some of the configuration that you could take advantage of in the future is you can version workflows and change those. You can add more or less notifications, assignments, and different alert escalations. And you can configure the forms to add additional data fields and business rules as your needs change. With the master schedule and integration to audit, what it means is that during the audit planning for a study, you can link the study, you can complete the full audit scope with its documents, with the different study and the phases. You can put together that audit team, who the lead is, who the study director, etc., and send them the notifications. You can also put very specific security on that audit so that just the right people at the right time have access to the right audit information. And with the study findings or observations, it can undergo classification. You can launch study responses so that the person who's being audited can respond to those, and it can go through the study director as well. Of course, launching the study deviations on that protocol, the study protocol, its amendments, etc. Launching a CAPA can also be done. The system comes with the reports and that closure of the audit, which means that you can have those critical initial and final reports so that all the right stakeholders are involved and sign off through the reviews, approvals, and the distributions, and that those reports are easy to create through the auto creation and filing mechanism that works hand in hand with the document management system. All of this, by pulling together all of the audits associated with that study, will give you that QAS information. Now, as we launch the particular master schedule, first of all, we know that we are going to use parts of that audit in conjunction with the document management, where we're going to store the audit reports, as well as the master study schedule, which we have filed under monitoring, but it could be moved. So in the master study schedule, we first have a dashboard, and we can create a new, it's not so much a schedule, all of the data working together is the schedule, but it's really describing that particular study. So in this case, we can collect some general information as far as the administrative site, which gives its security profile. And we can gather things such as test articles and the substances, the test facilities. All of these are lists that either point to another module in the system or they're drop-down lists. This is pointing toward location, but the drop-down list you can configure and put your lists in. We also allow to have multiple test sites. So those will have the study phases and the critical dates associated with each of those phases in that particular study. And that's important so you can gather all the right dates that go into those reports, especially in the GLP. Now, some of the other things that we collect, and again, this is configurable. This is just the out of the box. We're going to pull in the study title, the numbers, the study number, types, and the status. If there is an integration from or to Pristima, then not all this information will have to be added manually. That's where the integration will come into play, and that can be passed back and forth. We collect that team information again, as I mentioned, and then we have some critical dates for the overall dates of when audits were completed, etc. We'll see that roll up on the QAS as well. So that's a little bit about collecting the basic information about that master study. Uh, Now, where that comes into play is we integrate that with the audit. So we have different types of audit workflows. We can do a quick inspection, a general QMS, but we've also created a very specific study-based audit. And why this is a little bit different is because it's already based on the study. So we'll have some subtype information. It will allow us to pick the study directly. It will have more steps that are apropos to studies, study directors, and the way you might collect the feedback responses and the approval cycles as compared to a different type of audit within the system. We have some basic fields to describe what that audit is including, and it's mainly for instructional purposes. Now, the audit, as we go in and plan the audit, we can have multiple auditors, each taking a part of the scope. Or you can have one auditor do just one scope. So it's very flexible in the way you can have multiple tasks or a single task and roll multiple audits off a single study, etc. So depending on how you phase all your studies, it works uh, well for all those different cases. So I can come in, and now as I go into the tasking of the audit, I'm going to build my scope. And if I've put certain metadata keywords or put certain specifics or created a certain filter, it will help me select different types of data. In this case, I'm scoping it out with each element, and I've picked the study itself and a couple documents, but you can pick more than that. And of course, we have questionnaires that you can build in the system. Now we have a few that we've already created. I'm just going to grab that ISO 9001 preparedness questionnaire. It will give us an idea of the power of the questionnaires. And here's where we come in with the audit team. So we've got the auditees, those who are getting audited, the observers who don't have a role but are there to watch. So that could be your different all the different participants. Now when I launch it, so the first thing I did was fill it out, launched it, and then it comes to my second step, which is an audit documentation. That is used if you need to collect additional information that wasn't caught the first time to process prior to doing the audit, the actual audit itself. Now here as we go into the third step, or actually doing the audit, we have the place to collect opening meeting. If you want to collect, if you sit down and have that on site, we are seeing everything we gathered before in that form. And now we get down to the responsive part of the form where we're looking at collecting our observations or findings. So I'm going to type in procedure, there we go. And then you can add your description, the types, priorities, the risk categories are there for you to really classify and categorize your findings over your studies. So if you have a lot of findings, it helps to really break those up. Now the audited elements, as we scoped it out, we can say the observation is on which particular part of the scope. We'll get into the deviation in a little bit. So now I've also classified it if I've seen it before or not, and you can add to this list as well. So what kind of accuracy, completeness, etc. So I gather, including attachments, everything I want to do about that observation. Now quickly we're just going to go grab and take a look at what the questionnaires. The format here on questionnaires, the question wording, the types of answers, yes, no, or maybe a different set of multiple choice, that is up to you how those are configured. They can be scored or just merely aid the auditor. Now what I just did is I clicked on the finding. I want to do more work on that finding. I can launch any of these processes that you see. So on a study, I probably want to send it out to get a response. So in this case, I'm going to send it out, and I'm going to say it's going to copy the information in that I've asked it to, and I'm going to pick who that auditee, if you will, is. I'm just going to grab myself now, and then I'm going to take a look at that. There we go, that reviewer. And the reason why this is important is because it allows me then to ask the auditee, so I have this issue, what are you going to do about it? Here's this deviation. What are you going to do? What have you done? And then it will come back to the study director. So that response makes sure that all those studies have an appropriate answer from the observations that you found on each of those items. So we can set up, excuse me, we can set up the filters. I had my specific filter up and go back to all my active tasks, and there is my response issuance report. So we can go into those reports, and that would be in tandem with the findings. So with this out of the box, you can assemble this findings issuance report, which is that preliminary report to really deal with the person who's being audited and determine if they have any responses. So these are going basically hand in hand at the same time. You'll be able to update your findings if they had some comments, or you can lock that down. So it handles both cases. And in this case, we're just going to create that report, check it in. Right now what I'm doing is checking it into the document management system. So here's where it auto creates and it auto files. So whatever you've pulled together thus far in your audit, it takes all that information and pulls it automatically into your audit report. Now this might take just a second. The audit report I'm showing is a out of the box HTML active server page looking type of report. So, and it's grabbed just the information I put in. So I didn't really put in instructions or logistics, but had I, it would be filled. Now what most people do at this point is they ask us to have a what I call a pretty Word type of report, and we do that often in our implementations, and we just plug them in, so that way in that drop down list on audit report it would bring in a second one. I didn't save it, so that's why it's showing as blank. So I'm going to complete that now, and then I'm going to take a look at what it looks like. So as we go through the audit, it's still pulling that information back on the master schedule because the two are linked. The study is linked with the audit. So the first thing is Amy Powers. I can see that I've got, when I click on the print icon, I see that I have a report just to give me a listing of what I see on the screen. Now I can also add any field that was in my master schedule. So I can still configure it, add fields, and I can create a report and upload that. So that's what I see there. Now I'm going to exit out here and come in as another user. Second, I need to concentrate on my, and it also supports single sign-on, which I wish I had in that case. So let's go and take a look now at my master schedule. Now when I log in as a different user and click the print button, now I see I have a master study schedule. So these are some of the basic columns that are necessitated within the GLP reg. So again, I can click the print and pull in those columns for one type of master schedule, or what I can do is I can set up any number of reports can be configured. So when I select this one here, I'm going to click this one and click on the print again. I could click it through a right click or the print at the top. Now you see when I select one, I can say I'm going to run the QAS extract report. So what this is doing is it's saying show me all my audits that are related to this exact study number, and it will pull them in. So this is a QAS extract that you can put into a larger Word report as you're finishing up your study. Those are just some of the reports that are available in the system. And those reports, again, this can have items such as charts, they can have a grouping, statistics, etc. So that's just a little bit of the system, and we invite you to contact us if you want to see a deeper dive and see some of the other quality aspects and workflows available in our streamlined and efficient system. Thank you for watching.